This lesson's on margins and page setup. And once again, I'm going to try to go beyond what I assume most people know and try and give you a little more insight. Um, Before we get into it, your ruler needs to be on, I believe, in order for you to understand where your margins are. So if for some reason your ruler isn't on, just turn it on here with this little button, and then you'll be able to see both your horizontal and vertical rulers. Now, intuitively, you can tell pretty close what your margins are set at by simply looking at the ruler. The gray area here, or the blue area, the dark area, will tell you the size of this margin. Now, I wish that it would tell you specifically what it is, but you can guess that this is about an inch here, and here you've got from 6.5 to what would be 8.5, right? So that would give you about a 1 inch margin there as well. And the same thing here, you got about an inch here, and you've got about an inch here. Okay, so here you've got 6.5 inches of usable area, and a sheet is 8.5. Okay, so if minus 1 inch here, that leaves you 7.5. Minus an inch there, that leaves you 6.5. So that works out perfectly. Now, this is of course your margin is where your text doesn't type into. You can float a picture in there, or clip art can actually go into the margin. I wouldn't go too far into the margin if I were you, though, because you're going to get into an area that is your printer won't be able to reach. So as a general rule, I guess we try to stay inside the margins when we're placing clip art or text, and even the text, your word wrap in Word will wrap when it gets to the end of your margin and come back that way. In order to change your margins, you would go to your page layout tab, and here's your margins button here. Bit of a change here. You got some predetermined margins that you can just click and choose. The new default is 1, 1, 1, and 1. This is one of the few default settings that they've changed that I actually like. It used to be 1.25, 1.25 from the left and the right. I didn't really like that. I used to always change it back to 1, 1, 1, and 1. If you want to customize your margins, this is the same window as it used to be. All right. And if you want to change your default margins, you can come here. So you'd place whatever you want them to be, and now by default, every document you would open would have that new margin. Preview still doesn't work, never has. You can also choose whether you want landscape or portrait. Landscape being a page that's on its side, portrait being the standard. Now, you've got this new tool. I don't know if you like it or not. If you're a WordPerfect user and you're just going over to Word, you might like this one, and it'll show you the boundaries. You actually get a frame around the area where your text will be, and they've kind of hidden it, but you go to the Office button, and then from there we're looking for, I believe, Word Options, and then from there we go to Advanced, and we're looking for Show Text Boundaries right here, and then you hit OK, and that gives you a little frame. Now I realize it gives you the same frame that you would have had just by looking at your ruler, but it gives you the actual frame. So for WordPerfect users, you might want to turn that on because you'll be very comfortable knowing and seeing that. You need to understand that the smaller your margins are up here, the less room you're going to have for your headers and your footers. So if you're typing a document that's going to require a lot of footnotes or endnotes, or a sizable header at the top, you're going to need a bigger margin for that because you're eventually going to run out of room. So keep that in mind as well. You're able to change your margins. Some of you may already know this by putting your mouse up here and trying to find the area where you get the double arrow. I'm not doing this for effect. It's really that hard to get your mouse exactly in that area. And once it's got the double arrow, now I can click and drag and I can change the size of my margin. There are two reasons why I don't like this. One is it doesn't tell you as you're scrolling what the size of the margin is changing to. You have to do it by guessing intuitively, really. The other reason I don't like it, it's really hard to get. It's really, really hard to get your mouse exactly where that needs to be so that you can change the margin. So you can change your left and right margins that way. You can also change your vertical margins, your top margins this way. All right, so that does work. I'm just not a big fan for the two reasons I just laid out for you. Another thing that I want you to know is you may find yourself barely onto 2 pages as this document has. And the standard in your office or for your place of work might be 1, 1, 1, and 1. And you should have a standard. I mean, all the documents should look similar when they're leaving um, you know, a particular business. So if you've decided on 1, 1, 1, and 1, then everything should be 1, 1, 1, and 1. However, you may bend the rules once in a while, because here I've got a page that's barely on, a document that's barely onto 2 pages. You've got uh, shrink to fit, which is in print preview. Okay, and you can say shrink that to 1 page. The reason I don't like that one is it takes all your fonts and it will reduce them to whatever size they need to be in order to fit to 1 page. In a situation like this, I will often go to custom margin and just cheat a little bit and say, well, let's try 0.9, 0.9, 0.9, 0.9 and hit OK and see if that works. And then you might even do the side ones as well and see if that might not do it for you. And sometimes that does exactly what it is you needed it to do. Your margins, all four, are ever so slightly smaller than they were before, but I don't know that a lot of people notice. So it's just another option to shrink to fit. The last one I want to talk about is I've got a document here, which is a little booklet. And I find this feature very, very useful when you want to print something in booklet form. I like giving out booklets. And here what I've done is in page layout is I've asked for bookfold. Now, if you're going to do this, I strongly recommend that before you put all your clip art in and finish all your Make It Pretty, put it into bookfold, because you're going to need to adjust where your pages break. They may not break exactly where you want them to, and you may have to put in some hard page breaks, as I've done here, in order to separate this area of text from another area that's starting up. And then I would recommend that you put in all of your clip art in order to make it fancy. And the beauty of this is of course when you print it, I'm going to give you a print preview here. This is the first page, okay, and then it'll actually show you the order of your pages as you print them, and it will allow you to create little books. So that's bookfold. Before you're done making it pretty, I would type in the entire document, leave the clip art alone for now, and don't worry about your page breaks. Then go to page setup, then ask for bookfold, and then worry about where your pages break, and then start bringing in some clip art and putting it exactly where you want. And then how this prints out is going to really be determined by your printer settings and the style of printer. So you may have to experiment with it there, but it's a very useful thing when you're looking to create little booklets.